Okay, finally. Apologies, everybody, for being a few minutes late. Technical difficulties. You're here. I'm here. Episode 9 of your Relationship Workbench series. I'm Geoff Laughton, your relationshiparchitect.com. And if this happens to be the first time you've watched one of these or come live, thank you. Welcome. And this series is really for the entire month of April, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I'm just sharing things that come to me that might be useful, have been proving to be useful in working with relationship issues, family issues during this particularly bizarre and challenging time that we're all in. And you're welcome to ask questions. If you're here through Zoom, you can leave questions in the chat box. And if you're watching on Facebook Live, then just leave comments. I'm going to refresh my page so that I can see comments that you might leave. So today, the topic is loneliness. And one of the things that led me to want to share with all of you today about this is the fact that with single people that I know or work with, they definitely are having a very difficult time at this point. People are getting pretty toasty around the edges of being alone, not being able to really be in a room with people, to get hugs, to get touch. And that's also happening in households where there is a partner and or children and or other family. I have some clients who have their grown kids staying with them during the quarantine. So in one way, it might seem counterintuitive to some that one could get lonely when you have your loved ones with you. And the fact of the matter is that's been showing up over and over and over again, particularly during this quarantine time, is it's forcing us to look at what we might not or actually just don't see normally because we're at work a lot, or if we're not at work, we're dealing with our families, or if we don't have a family or a partner, we're off doing the things that single people do to socialize and connect and meet people and date. A lot of that isn't happening right now. So that is forcing us, and I think this is a good thing, and it can be a bitch to go through at the same time. It's a good thing because it gives all of us an opportunity to notice indicators that we fundamentally are used to operating mildly to majorly inauthentic, that our life circumstances have created enough busyness, enough distraction that we don't really even know where are we in terms of being aligned with who we are, what we want, what we need. And if you are in a relationship, then this time is bringing up all the stuff that to some degree or another you haven't been paying attention to in your relationship. And one of the side effects of that can be feeling lonely even though your partner's 3 feet away from you on the couch. So I want to address maybe the biggest elephant in the middle of the room, which is that loneliness itself is really about being disconnected from self. And I'm really talking about being disconnected from what I'll call your authentic self, not your ego constructed identity, not your egoic self. but the part of you that really has a deep desire to be really living and sharing your purpose, for example. The part of you in relationship that sees relationship as an opportunity for you and your partner's spirits, your hearts, to be able to create this cool cocktail of growth, development, and deep, deep, deep love. So when we get disconnected from any of that, and then you take away being able to either go to work at all because you're unemployed or furloughed right now, or you're working at home and you spend all day in front of a screen, which is better than a sharp stick in the eye, but still not the same as being spatially with somebody, well, then you're probably going to feel lonely. And that loneliness that you might think is an indicator of a problem with your relationship, I don't recommend that you start there. It's an indicator that there's a loneliness that comes from being detached from yourself and your emotions. And when that happens, it's not necessarily intuitive for people. And I'm going to say for a lot of men in particular, it's not intuitive to say, wow, I am really lonely if you're in a relationship. If you're single and you're not dating anyone right now, it's probably pretty apparent where you're lonely. And you may know it by just looking at how you distract yourself from the loneliness itself, even in the time of quarantine. Working, then getting on Netflix or some other screen for a while. All kinds of different things that we do to not feel. So, welcome, Tyra. And I want to say that there are some things that you can actually do to begin taking all this on and be able to shift it. Because ideally, there is a difference between alone and lonely. And this is really one of the key things that had me want to pick this as a topic, because I can be alone. I can be alone and feel great. I can be alone. I can be with my wife, with our dogs, and feel deeply lonely. And it has nothing to do with my wife or our dogs. So the first thing I'm going to recommend that people do to work with this is you really need to find a path that works for you. I'm going to suggest one at least, but a path that works for you to get reconnected with yourself. And think about self as two different selves. Small s self, that would be your ego, your mind. Let's just call it your ego identity version of yourself, which is really attached to who's in your life, how much money you make, what kind of work are you doing, how popular are you, how much external validation are you getting. That's all in the realm of small s self. Then there's big S self, which is, I always like to refer to it as our spirit, our soul, your heart, your intuition. You can call it any of those things. And that's the part of us that we're feeling lonely not being connected with. And also, for any of you that are watching that have a strong religious orientation or spiritual path that is crucially important to you, having faith in that is also part of what, when we get disconnected from that faith or trust in that higher power, higher consciousness. I'm more of a spiritual person than a religious person, but whatever works for you, if you're disconnected from your own spirit And if you have any kind of relationship whatsoever with any higher consciousness, you're going to feel lonely. So step one is to reestablish those connections. One of my favorite tools to be able to start getting reconnected to me is always going to start with either journaling, and in this time, I'm going to recommend a tool that might be hard to come by right now because of how long it takes to get physical books. But there's a great book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, been around a long time. And there's a companion journal that has prompts from the book, and you do 2 pages of freehand writing every morning. Really, really powerful tool. But if you also just have your own journaling practice, or if you've never done it, this could be a great time to pick it up. What I would encourage people to do is to journal what you're thinking. Like, just check in with your mind. What am I thinking? My life sucks. I'm lonely. I feel dumb for being lonely, or I feel like I'm being, like life is screwing me over by taking away everything that I hold dear to whatever degree. Or I'm just freaked the hell out because my money's running out and I'm not working right now. Any of the things that are challenging, and any of the things that are working for you. Those are things that you could be just kind of like literally emptying out your thoughts on the page. And what I find happens with me is when I'm really not thinking about it or analyzing it, I'm just free associative writing, then emotions tend to come up. And one of the things that a lot of people do, they're freaked out, scared, or feeling lonely and depressed, is they want to hide and go away. And actually, one of the ways through that is to do the exact counterintuitive thing and feel what you're feeling. So, in other words, give your emotions their voice. They're not going to kill you. Really, they won't. And the idea is to let them come up, feel them, have a good cry, beat the crap out of a pillow, be able to just scream in your house. Though if you have kids around, go into the garage or go somewhere that's private or scream into a pillow. Just move the energy. And that's the way you check in with your emotions. You're letting them come up, come out, and let them move. You may not be aware that on average, an emotion a feeling only lasts for about 90 seconds. But when we get anxious, depressed, worked up, overwhelmed, ready to blow a gasket, it isn't from the feeling itself, it's how our mind is working with that feeling. So being able to get it out on paper is a phenomenally helpful thing. Or I even have a friend who has started doing it in their phone, like turning on their voice memo feature on their iPhone or whatever the Android equivalent is, and just journaling out loud verbally. That can be awesome. So that can help you get in touch with your mind, where your emotions are. Also pay attention to your body, what's happening in your body. Because the body carries a lot of that. So if we're tense and stressed in our body, and you do these things I'm recommending, your body can also relax. Though I'm also a big workout nut, so I want to also just put a shout out here for the value of making sure that if you are not exercising at all, if you're in the house all day, you're not doing any kind of workout on YouTube or working with someone, then get out and walk. Wear your mask, keep socially distanced, but get out. Go walk through your entire neighborhood. Give yourself a good 30, 45-minute walk. That can change your state. Now, going back to what I said about connecting to your spirit, your intuition, if you believe in any kind of higher power consciousness, getting reconnected to that, then I'm a huge fan of meditation. And given that the weather is warmer, I hope where you are, it's certainly warmer here. If the weather is warm, and even if you already have a meditation practice, I want to invite you to do something that may not come naturally to your mind. Actually, if you have a backyard, then go sit out on the earth. Get your butt on the earth. If you don't have a backyard, but you live near a park, and again, you have the freedom to get out of the house for a little bit, put on your mask and go find the park and just plop down, take a blanket if you're worried about getting your butt wet, and just close your eyes and breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth for 10 minutes. And if you do believe in any kind of spiritual higher power of any kind, then that's where you say, as you're breathing and feeling the energy of the earth underneath you, which can be very grounding, you can just say, Spirit, God, George, whatever you connect with of the divine, ask for their help. Ask for grace to help you through working with and uncovering what it is that is being brought up by the loneliness and through the pandemic. Okay? And then go back home and go about your day. Making that a priority, I can tell you from my own personal experience, especially during this pandemic period, it's saving my bacon in a lot of ways, and I trust in its capability to help you with yours. Now, if you're in a relationship, given that this is your relationship workbench after all, if you happen to be in a partnered relationship, then I want to share a cool little ritual that can also begin to break the loneliness and the isolation that can come with it, that the mind likes to do. Remember, you guys, your heart never wants to isolate. Love doesn't want to isolate. Fear wants to isolate. Fear wants to pull in and cover our heads, literally or figuratively. So the antidote to fear is to bring love in. And the way to love is consciously doing things that help you connect. So even if you're scared, even if you're majorly bummed out, and the last thing you want to do is look your partner in the eye, that's the time where you want to, grace sometimes really helps, but you got to dig in and pull it out of you to connect with your partner. And a simple ritual that you can do that just for the 2 or 3 minutes it takes, it can connect you. And even if it's just a few minutes of connection initially, then that gets you disconnected from the fear and the loneliness. So the ritual is simple. Get a tea light candle and stand in front of your partner. On an odd numbered day, one of you pick odd numbered and the other partner picks even numbered. And that means whoever has the odd numbered day on odd numbered days, you're going to start. So have a little torch or match, and you're right in front of your partner. You're holding the candle, in between your fingers here, in between your hands rather. And your partner can put their hands underneath yours. so that they don't catch on fire. That would be useful. And so the person whose day it is to start this lights the candle, looks your partner in the eye, and says their name, Shirley, I cherish you. Then Shirley says, John or Joan. This works with gay couples, isn't limited to straight couples, but I'm just going to use man and woman here. Bob, I get that you cherish me. Now, when you say I cherish you, make sure you're connected to that truth, because that's what makes the difference. We go off of energy more than we go off of words. So then Shirley says, Bob, looking him in the eye and feeling the truth of what she's about to say, I appreciate you. And then Bob says, Shirley, I get, I understand, I feel, any of those work, that you appreciate me. And then together you blow out the candle. That's the entire practice. Takes you 2 or 3 minutes. And I learned about that practice from a couple that I took a workshop from. And they developed that practice when they'd already been together 20, 25 years. And their marriage was that close to just blowing up irreparably. And that practice they credited with saving their marriage at that time, because they had 3 minutes to get out of their head, to get out of their being upset, pissy, blaming their partner for their own loneliness or misery, and they could reconnect to what was actually true. So there's something you can do together. And if you are both working, even working from home, and if you have kids, if you don't have kids, do it when you're both off work before you're going to have dinner together, or if you're not having dinner together, make the time, do that practice. And then if you have kids, I recommend doing it after you get the kids in bed, so you have privacy. And then I also encourage you, if you're feeling good after the candle is blown out, ask each other, check in with each other. It's harder to feel lonely when you're actually talking. So you can be checking in. What was the best part of your day today? What was the hardest part of your day today? Things like that can help. And lastly, I'm going to say that another way to help erase loneliness when you're with somebody, but also with yourself, really look at what are you doing to distract yourself from the loneliness even. And then give yourself 1 day where you're going to stop doing it. You won't do it. And you could read a book, which might be distracting, but better than looking at a screen and being passive. Do something non-passive to engage with life in a way that's interesting and ideally even challenging. And if you can't do that, then sit and meditate again, and emotions will come up, or you're going to feel like you're a drug addict going cold turkey from the distractions. And that's where the real big boy and big girl panties come on. Breathe through that anxiety or that tension. Just breathe through it. And my experience is every time I've done that, that tension breaks. I'm reconnected with my heart, with my spirit, with stillness, and I'm at peace, which gives me bandwidth to deal with anything. Okay, that's a lot. And this will be in the Facebook group for perpetuity. So you can always go back if you're watching this as a replay. Comments that you have, please leave them in the comments box, or if you really want to be completely anonymous, send me a Facebook message. I want to ask if Tyra, if you have a question, then please feel free to click on the chat box. Oh, you're welcome. Delightful to have you here. I appreciate that. And I just want to check Facebook and see if there are any questions or comments there. Hi, Gianna. Good to see you, kind of, on my phone. Good to see your name in your Facebook picture. So if there aren't any questions that anyone has for now, then I want to just encourage you this weekend. Try some of what I've suggested. Give it a shot. You got nothing to lose. And I also think it's really, I'm finding it helpful for me to go back to pleasures, things that feed your heart and your body in a healthy way, to go back to things like listening to music. Carve out half an hour where you just pop headphones or earbuds in and you just listen to music. That's always a good go-getter for me. And if you can be out in nature safely and legally, then go do that this weekend. And another way that you can increase connection if you're with a partner, or even if you don't have one, can be allowing your body and your heart sexual pleasure. So if you missed episode 8 that was on a couple days ago, that was all about sexuality during these times with my friend Joanna Shakti. That was a great episode. So you can also maybe pick up some pointers there. All right, everybody. So Monday, next episode, episode 10, is going to be, given that I'm clearly no longer a member of the youth of our country, I'm going to be going back to the subject of intimacy, but I'm going to specifically be talking about intimacy with older couples, people that are in their 60s or older, because, yeah, the mechanics stay the same, but there are a whole lot of other variables that get involved. So if you happen to be interested in that, then be sure you come back in a few days and watch episode 10. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. No other questions. Be well, be safe, be here. See you next time. Bye-bye.